All right, so here we have a seat from a pontoon boat that's been designed in SOLIDWORKS 2018, and I'm going to use ExactFlat to flatten it. So one thing I can do here is I just basically select this, and I don't really need to see that because I'm not flattening that base. What I'll do is I'll flatten this top surface here on the sides so you can see how ExactFlat works. So ExactFlat is a premier partner of SOLIDWORKS. Our tool ribbon is right here. We have the first couple of tools we'll be using is the create piece and convert to ExactFlat. So I'll just hit create piece and it's going to come up with this uh, box here which says create piece. Select the pieces I want created as a flat surface. So let's say that's one piece there. I'll hit create piece. This is the other piece that I want flattened. So I'll just go around, select all the edges, create piece here. And as you see, as I create pieces, the part goes transparent, so I know what surfaces I've created. I'll select these two and hit create piece here. So we've got three pieces created. I could also go back here and join those two pieces and make that as one piece. All right, so we've got our top surface ready for flattening. I've selected all my pieces. I've got ExactFlat piece 1, 2, ExactFlat 3, and ExactFlat 4. Hit my green checkbox. I'll go now from, and just basically displays the pieces I've selected. I'll go into convert to ExactFlat. That's going to take the SOLIDWORKS render mesh and put it into ExactFlat. So this is what it's doing here. It's converting all those pieces into ExactFlat. And now it's going to ask me to select a material for those four pieces that I've got. I'm going to select leather. And the cool thing about ExactFlat is it actually takes the physical properties of leather and flattens that surface based on as if it was wrapped in leather. So that's why we're very accurate when we create our flat patterns. Just hit OK here, and it's going to change the color just to a red, which is in my database. Red is my leather. I'll go back into ExactFlat tools. I'll go into my flattener tool. I'm going to adaptively remesh. So this is our 3D part, and you can see we've thrown a strain map on it. So it shows the stress and strain on the 3D piece. But we haven't optimized the flat pattern yet. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to adaptive or remesh the piece, and you can see the mesh had changed a bit. And now over on this side, we have our initial flat patterns. So we haven't optimized them. We've just basically got them over here. Next step is to actually optimize them, which is using this optimize button. And if I look at my status down here, it'll show you how quickly these pieces are getting flattened. And as you can see, the strain is coming out of these pieces. We've gone from a high red to, you can see right here, it's basically taking all the strain out and stress out of it. It's expanding the material and it's flattening it based on leather. So if we go through, we've got our first three pieces are flat already, and this is the last piece here, which is this curvature here. So it's going to go through and it's going to flatten that. Now, just because I'm recording a video, I'm not going to let it run complete. It'll only run for another maybe 30 seconds, but I'm just going to save some videotape here. I'll stop the flattening process. I'll hit OK here. It's going to do right now is take us to our next stage, which is basically viewing our pattern. So it's updating all the pattern pieces. We're going to go into our pattern view, just hit view pattern, and here's our four pieces for our pattern. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to use my move tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create this and show this as a bottom edge. So I'm just going to move, then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to move it up a bit. And then I'm going to use our Find tool. So this is a pretty unique tool to ExactFlat also. I'm going to set a 3-inch gap between pieces. And what this Move tool does is when I select an edge that a piece gets sewn to, you can see it actually puts the edge. And this is just going to kind of be a great place where for placement of the pieces. So I'm just going to grab these pieces. So now you can see how that's going to get sewn together. Just zoom into these pieces because the next thing I want to show is, let me just pan down a bit and zoom in. Whoops. I'm going to add seams. And how I add seams is just hit my seam tool and select an edge. And as you can see, as I select this edge here, the corresponding piece edge gets selected. And it has a little line that says, okay, this piece gets sewn to this piece. And then you can actually have instructions for the sewers that get printed onto the piece that says piece A gets sewn to piece B. Anyway, the green is the start, the red is the stop, so it shows the sewing direction. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to make this seam type a 1/2 inch pinch, and I am going to create a notch chain. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch V notch. So I can select that out of my notch list. And right here I have that set as a specific count of 3. So it basically shows 1, 2, 3. And the cool thing is these notches actually line up. So if I go into, let's say I want into every 4 inches I want a notch. This is updated now. And if I go in and I'm just going to accept that. And let's go back into our move tool. And let's set this at 1/2 an inch, okay? So 5.5. And what I'm going to do here is the reason I'm doing this is I want to show exactly how these things get lined up. So I've got it at 0.5. I'm just going to hit the find, and then I'm going to go through and line these pieces up. And what you're going to see is, look at that notch lines up exactly where the notches have to go. So the software knows exactly when it puts a notch on one vertices, it knows exactly how to sew it to the next. That's basically what I wanted to show there. I can walk my pattern too, but again, notch lines up exactly where it has to get sewn together. So it's very intuitive software, and it helps out, and that's how it becomes very productive for people. So once we have all that done, just can hit OK here. And the next thing I want to do is I want to go to my marker set. So I've added my notches, I added my seams. I go into my marker view, and that's basically going to show us how our pieces are going to lay on our cutting table or how they're going to get plotted. So once I have my marker view set here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my nesting algorithm, and I'll just hit nest. This is a feature in ExactFlat Professional. ExactFlat comes in two flavors. We have a standard version for SolidWorks, and we have a professional version. We also have network licenses available for both standard and professional. Difference between standard and professional: professional has automatic nesting. In the standard version, you basically grab your pieces and you move them around on your marker set. In what I'm using right now is our professional version. So I'm going to create a nest automatically. What I've told the computer prior to starting the video was that I wanted 20 instances of this seat. So it's going to actually create 20 instances and nest them. Nesting one piece wouldn't be very dramatic. So let's just nest the 20 pieces. I'm going to hit nest here. And we're going to see the status start. So here's our 20 pieces, and you can see it's going through. I've set this at to run for a minute. We don't have to let it run for a minute, but I mean, if we wanted to, we can. You can set this to run for all night if you want it. Depends on how, the longer that the algorithm runs, the better the nest is. So we have some customers that are using material that's, $100 a foot. So they want to let if they get an extra 0.5% or 1%, that's huge. That's a couple $100,000 a year for these guys. So I'm just going to let this run. I can stop it at any time just by hitting stop. And I'll just accept the nest once it's stopped. And once I've accepted it, I can close this and I'll go into my preview screen. And this will show you basically here's the nest or here's the marker ready to go out to the cutting table. How do I get it to the cutting table? Simply, or the plotter. And we support any plotter or any cutting table manufactured. So we just hit export here. I select what type of cutter I have. In this case, I'm selecting my Eastman cutting system. I could select my Gerber, my Electra, my Pathfinder, my Aeronaut, my Carlson. Doesn't really matter. Any cutting table, any plotter we support. Just hit export here. I'm going to create an auto-generated marker. I already have one here, so I'm just going to put this, I'm just going to overwrite this one here. Hit save, and it says, okay, the export was successful, ready to go to your plotter or your cutter. Hit OK here. Just going to go down here, and let's go into view our marker. So I go back onto my desktop and auto-generate marker. Just got to find out which one it is. It's probably this one here. Okay, that's our marker there. So that basically shows all the information. We have our seam line, we have our notches, we have our part number, and we have 20 seats that have been nested and ready to go to the cutter. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, 705-670-4459, or you can email me at mark.jewell, that's M-A-R-K dot Jewell, Jewell, at exactflat.com.